Everybody, again, my name's Terrell McWhorter. I'm one of the members of DragonFly and part of the team that is tasked with getting you all comfortable and transitioned from Arbiter to DragonFly. Really, my hope tonight is to introduce DragonFly to you, give you a general sense of how our system flows, where things are, how it could work. Just answer those just initial questions as you all get introduced. I think there's probably going to be some varying levels of comfort already for those that might have gotten in here early and already played around with the game schedule. But really, this is not for me just to speak for 3 hours. You know, I really would hope that you all just ask questions as we go along. I might ask you to hold on to those questions just until we get to that point. But again, you all ask questions, and again, want to get you all comfortable with the new system. With that being said, DragonFlyMax.com. Everybody is going to have to go to this landing page, whether you're in this room or you're the officials that you are assigning. And I will just get this portion of it out of the way, and then we can jump right into the system. But as far as just things that I think just know that are there for you all to go back and reference at a later date, under the resources section, DragonFly Academy is going to be huge, especially this portion for officials, what they can expect to create their accounts. I know that we are sending out some Ohio-specific instructions to all the officials either tonight or tomorrow or maybe Wednesday, sometime in the next couple of days. Those will be going out. But as far as just hey, I'm Mr. Official or Mrs. Official. How do I put in my blocks? How do I get my game assignments? How do I receive communications and payments? Again, things that you all should not be the ones that have to answer on behalf of the officials. I mean, great that you all have a general idea of how that works, but again, your officials should know how to do this stuff too, and this is just something for you all to provide to them.
Although if a question comes up about the fact that they haven't received payment yet, Resources DragonFly Academy is where we should be sending them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, payments, we'll cover that in a lot of detail, but hey, I need to withdraw funds to my bank account. Yeah, absolutely, I would point them to that section. But for you all, assigners and staff, assigning organization administrators, same thing. Getting started, viewing your officials that connect to your assigning group. How do I create officiating links? Again, that portion right there we'll go into a lot of detail about, but that's something that we are already doing for you all. But again, a lot of the stuff I'm going to be talking about tonight, you can find step-by-step instructions, short video clips that walk you through that. So if you're kind of like, I know I heard Terrell talk about it, can't really remember all of it, DragonFly Academy for assigners. As far as just like, hey, ongoing, how do I, now that I've got my hands on DragonFly, I've done assignments, how do I go back and talk to a person or get help just in general? Again, DragonFly Academy, helpful articles are going to be great. We also have this section for web meetings. I think you just got to give us 12 hours heads up to join those. So night before you want to talk to us, go to the web meetings page and either do the Ask Us Anything if you have like specific questions or specific features that you're wanting to take a look at, or there's this COS, Officials and Assigners web meeting, if you just want a broad overview. Those are live meetings. We cap it at 4 registrants, so a lot smaller audience. I've been running those meetings for 3 years now, and I can say I think typically there's maybe 1 or 2 people that join. So a lot of times it'll be a pretty captive audience if you just want to hop in and talk to somebody by yourself. Those I think are great. Hey, these are important questions I have. I want to share screens. I want you to see my screen so I can show you what I'm clicking and seeing. I kind of put that in the, hey, this is really important. It's not necessarily urgent, right? If you're a Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, I will reference that kind of stuff every once in a while. But, hey, talk to a person, know that those are there. As far as just like, hey, I need help on the fly, and I need somebody to answer questions for me. I don't want to have to wait 12 hours to schedule a meeting. Chat box, I have feelings about it, but hey, we prioritize assigners after the Angies of the world. Angie, she usually picks up the phone and calls us directly. But say Angie were to send in a chat message to us, we would answer her first, and then assigners would get the next priority in our communications. So again, it says a couple of hours. Assigners were usually pretty fast to answer. 20 minutes I think is during business hours. So not a live chat by any means, but again, we do prioritize the assigners before everybody else. I will also share my email if you just want to contact me. Happy to be that guy. But in general, I will say hey, we've all been using software to an extent for a while now. We all know if it's a bug, if it sounds like a bug, looks like a bug. I've done this 20 times already, and the 21st time it doesn't work the exact same way that it did before. Well, hey, contact me or reach out to our support, and we'll track what's going on there, or just talk through what's that particular instance. But that is the boring part that I will just like to get out of the way so that we can actually focus on the platform and answer y'all's questions. Now, because we are primarily interested in doing game assignments, I will focus on the game schedule just to start. So for everybody in this room, is there anybody that hasn't gotten their assigning group set up yet with you? Okay. So do you have organizations set up, or are you connected to schools? Where are you all in that setup?
I sent a list into you guys for schools, but I'm not seeing anything of the schools populating.
Okay. So for the folks that raise their hand, if you haven't created your assigning group yet, or it hasn't been created, I'll have you all coming down here to talk to Trap. He will create it for you. We'll still need to set up your schools with you, but as far as just getting your assigning group set up, I would have you come over here real quick. Yes, ma'am.
What was it? I can't remember the name of the gal. Chelsea, maybe? I sent her my list of teams and the cities that they're in.
Okay.
But it was just today, so I guess it's not accurate, right?
We can check on that here in a second.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think there was a Google form that had been sent out a couple of weeks ago. If you haven't completed that Google form, or if you send it in today.
Well, when you have the sign-up thing, you have list all your schools. I mean, but you've got 40. I have 40 teams and schools to throw in there. That wouldn't work for me anyway.
Yes. Yeah. That's what that Google form was for.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was Angie, help me out here, what was the two people's names that were here when I was here before?
Brandon was here.
And the president?
Kirk.
So they asked me they made an assigners group for me. And they
Okay.
told me they were gonna dump all that stuff in here.
Okay.
And I don't see anything.
Let's just do this, actually.
Rob, you're CCL at
What's your name, sir?
Rob Rammer. The group is CCL-OCC basketball.
Sure.
And it's J5KNX8.
Basketball, football?
Yeah, two of them.
Yeah.
Two accounts.
Yeah, so you're there. You got it. Well, I'll talk about the game schedule, because you might not see anything, right? Nothing? Okay.
I'm a virgin, I'm good.
Hey, it's there at least. Yes, sir.
Trey, one of my issues, we have several schools like Jackson High School, Massillon Jackson, Jackson, Ohio. So I'm getting all of Massillon Jackson.
Getting the wrong Jackson.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, that'll be something that I want to talk to you all about. Absolutely.
With
ours is set up through our league. We've got games listed on our assignments, but it's none of the schools that are ours.
Yeah. So again, I'll talk to you about that because I'm pretty sure I know what that is, and that'll be a hey, first thing you do when you're in here kind of thing. In DragonFly, so gentleman in the back, as far as first time you log in, you go to the game schedule tab right here. First thing I would tell you to do, and I'll jump over to another assigning group in New Mexico, but the first thing I would always have you do is click this Only My Games button. As a starting point, that's what I would tell you to do. What that does, so I don't know if this is what you were talking about. Hey, I'm seeing a lot of games for a lot of sports that I don't have any business with, right?
Now I have none.
Now you have none. Well, are we looking at 23-24 academic year? Okay, that might just be, hey, we need to connect you to schools then. But what that does when you click Only My Games is all of the schools that you're connected to as an organization, as an assigning group, it's only going to show you their home games. So all those away games where, hey, again, I'm not responsible for assigning these officials, are going to be filtered out. At this point, it's really up to you all on how much further you want to filter the games schedule. So you might go in here and say, yeah, this is just a basketball organization, but I might want to look at just men's basketball. I can filter out that much. I can then go to see just varsity games. I can do a date range. Again, you can narrow your game schedule and what you are viewing a lot further after you've clicked that Only My Games button. But Only My Games, first thing that you should do when you get to this page.
Does it matter, like I assign football and basketball, does it matter if I have one account? Should I have one account for football, one account for basketball, or should I just have one account?
I would say one account. The reason, that's me. If you want to have multiple accounts and do log in, log out, you could certainly do that. But to me, it just makes sense to have one for all sports. And again, I don't know if you are doing football and basketball concurrently in your assigning process. I feel like a lot of people that, hey, I'm in the mindset of football. I just want to focus on football. That's where I would go and then just select football as my sport. I'm not going to see all those other sports at that point, but hey, I'm just going to keep track of one username and password at that point. But it's completely up to you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Same thing. Hey, you might be the assigner. You might also call games. I would use the same account. Yes, sir.
Is there a setting on the computer that allows that whole screen to be seen? Or I have to scroll over to see the right side of the screen? Is there any, or do I have to scroll?
A lot of that is going to be up to the size of your screen.
Okay.
Also the size of how magnified you are. One other thing that you might want to consider, sir, is, hey, we're on a couple different views on the game schedule, and I'll get into those. But, hey, there's a lot of information. Maybe you care less about the majority of it. You can always do a custom view if it needs to be less. And you can pick and choose whatever you want to have on the screen. So from here, what you can expect, I'll go to the assigning view, as y'all are all assigners, and this is where I'll jump back over to the OHSAA. DragonFly, we imported all the games, or most of the games, I think, right? All the games that were in Arbor that got sent to my OHSAA should be in DragonFly, along with the officials' assignments as well. Those should be populating in DragonFly. So really, once you're connected to your schools, you should see those assignments. And again, what you can expect, a change from last week to even today. Last week, all these assignments, they had a status of just assigned. Your officials would have had to accept, reject them again once they claimed their accounts. We'll get into that later on. But we have updated all the assignments to be accepted. So there's nothing, you don't have to worry about that anymore. But schedules are there. Yes, sir.
What was the criteria for bringing across the officials that were already attempted to be assigned in Arbiter, but may not have accepted their assignments? Were those brought over also?
Don't.
So for example, we know in Arbiter when they look at a match,
Yeah,
but they haven't accepted it yet.
sure. I would not want to
Still
speak.
necessarily show up.
Sure. I don't want to speak 100% to that, so I will say that on the front end. I believe they had to have been accepted for them to be pulled into my OHSAA before they got pulled into DragonFly. I might double check with Laura and the OHSAA staff next, after this, and I'll get you an answer to that one. But I think I remember hearing that, but don't hold me to that 100%. Yes, sir.
Did you say that if they've accepted the games in Arbiter, do they have to accept it again in DragonFly?
Not anymore. No.
If it's in green, they're okay?
Yes, sir. Yep.
How about if they declined the game in Arbiter? If they declined the game, they would have been blocked in my
I
group.
think that falls into the same category of it wasn't accepted in Arbiter, it didn't get pulled into DragonFly.
Okay, but do you have the ability to where if I decline a game, or say somebody declines a game, then they become blocked in my group? Does DragonFly do that same thing?
Yeah,
It gives me the ability to block it.
You'll see. There's every assigner I feel like handles that slightly different, but there's a warning and an override if in that case, and I'll show you where that shows up. Yes, sir.
Is there a filter for each individual school?
You can. So, again, I'm looking at this from the OHSAA standpoint, but you all as well, you could go to your schools and just type in, hey, I'm looking for, Archbishop Hoban. I can sort and filter the schedule by school. I can sort and filter by multiple schools all at once too. But that's, again, filter the schedule as much as you want. Completely up to you all in your assigning process.
Because I don't, on my schedule here, it has all the teams, all right? And I just want to look at each team. Will you also show us how to put the game fees in?
Yeah, I've got that on my important things to make sure I spend a lot of time on.
I don't see any place on here that I can type in each individual school so that I can bring them up.
Yeah, so you just do the school filter, and then you just type in the name of the school that you're wanting to view. Now, hey, I could go in there and filter the schedule by school, where they're home or away. I can also do it where they're the host, the team that's responsible for payment is typically how I would consider that one. I can filter by home team, away team. Again, use those criteria as you want to get more and more specific. So in DragonFly, so again, one thing that I will also point out, as you all as assigners, we imported in the assignments. They would be listed as accepted. You should see a lot more accepted than you do rejected, assigned, unpublished, and unassigned. Those numbers at the top of the screen right there also are hyperlinked. So if I want to narrow my game schedule to games that, hey, need my attention, I've got unassigned positions that I need to account for, or unpublished means I've got an official on there, I haven't notified them to then go and accept or reject. All these have a specific status in what that means in our system, but I can go straight to the rejected games and find that official that's rejected on there and swap them out. So use those, again, to help you in your assignment process. Again, talking to assigners, I think pretty common would be, hey, I'm going to go in on Monday or maybe Sunday night and use that what needs my attention, search all the, needs attention right there to see which games I've got to take action on, right? So I'm not missing anything on Friday night. Again, whatever is your process. But a lot of ways that you can filter this game schedule. If you have questions about it, if there's a filter that, hey, you think we are missing, hey, we want to hear about it. But again, there's a lot of ways that you can narrow your focus. But really, from here, what can I do? I can click on, if I needed to assign a game here. The first time I click into any of these games, whether it's, hey, checking this box to the left of it or just anywhere in this section, it will pull up this game details window over here on the right-hand side. If there's any changes to date and time, facility gets updated, you name it, you all as assigners have the final say-so on the game schedule. So this is where you all would go to make that update. To get to your assignments, officials and workers. When you get here,
Where'd you go again? I'm sorry, I wasn't watching.
I'm on game details, officials and workers. Yours might look a little different, right? I got this assign officials panel over here on the left. Yours might look something like this where it's underneath. So if you're trying to say look exactly like mine, but officials and workers pulls up the assignment window. You can see we've got one unassigned official slot. I'm guessing that everybody is in this show blocked official status because we're importing in eligibility data right now. But, hey, I've got this unassigned slot. I'm going to say Jeffrey is the official I'm trying to assign. I just hit assign, override that. In DragonFly, again, you all just be aware, warnings that I just showed you, hey, they are suggestions. They're blocks that are applied to that official. We want to give you that alert so you can override it. But, when you should do that, again, I will leave up to y'all's discretion. We can certainly talk about it a lot. But I've got Jeffrey on that game. At that point, he is unpublished, which just means I've put him on the game. I haven't notified him. Got a great question. He's not seeing the assign button like I showed you earlier, so let me remove Jeffrey from that assignment. If I'm assigning officials, I'm going to see this based off of available positions. So on your game over there, you didn't have any available position slots, which is why you don't have that assign button, right?
You may be saying this later on, but what populates the list of officials that we see that we have the ability to assign?
Yep.
Because right now it can't possibly be every official.
So right now, we are importing all of the officials' eligibility data from OHSAA.
Based off them being
Paying their renewal fee, and yes, sir.
okay, so we're at the mercy of the officials.
They are in DragonFly. They have a profile for this year that can be assigned, but if they have not completed their OHSAA registration, then they're going to show up on this show blocked officials page, right? Again, you can get to them, you can assign them, but they haven't done everything that they need to, which is why they're on that show blocked officials designation. Now, if you look at this first individual up here, James Ivey now, we do alert you to other types of blocks. So if I'm an official, and we'll get to what do officials do. If I'm an official, I put in a schedule block. Hey, I work a 9 to 5. The game's at 4:30. I'm going to show up as unavailable. If, hey, my kid is the shortstop for that school's baseball team, I'm going to block that school because I probably shouldn't call that game if my son's involved, right? Like, there's a lot of different blocks. In our system, we will notify you on that show blocked officials page and tell you why the official's not showing up as initially available. Again, that is information for you all to take. You can override it if you need to. Hey, I got more games than I got officials. I need somebody. And so I just need bodies. And I'm gonna recognize that warning, but I can override it, right? So again, you all as assigners have that ability to override the blocks in the system too.
One other detailed question that maybe get into later on, when you do go to, let's say that the particular game has no slots, no positions. The only position that exists, we do volunteers. The only position that exists, and maybe it's for every sport, says official.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a global way to create a specific sport position that can then be used for every particular game we go to? Or is it always going to be official and we have to use the other, under actions, I noticed there's a bulk add. In volleyball, for certain matches, we have line judges, but not for every match.
Yeah.
The line judge doesn't show up as a position to act, even though you guys added it when you did the transfer.
I think when Arbiter sent him to my OHSAA, it came across as official, and that's what we pulled. But if you wanted to update it, then that's kind of how I might do that today versus how I'll do it shortly, if that makes sense. So the question that came up is, and I'm assuming, tell me if I'm off on this, everything shows up as official. I want to update it to show line judge or chair position or, hey, side judge, head referee, whatever it may be for your sport, right? Official is how it got pulled in typically. I think I've seen like R, just a single letter for some sports. So how I might update that right now and add those positions, if I am, again, looking at my schedule, so this is just football, I can select my positions, the games that I am wanting to do. I can do actions and then do bulk add positions. And then I can put in line judge or whatever you want to call it.
I've done that, but that has to be done on a match by match basis.
You can select all.
But, correct,
Yeah.
but not, in our case, not every game requires that position.
Sure. So I think like a common one would be, hey, maybe basketball. That's my easy one, right? Basketball, varsity games, they get three officials. Sub-varsity, they get 2, is like a pretty common thing, right? So that's where I would go in and select, hey, varsity, and then do that bulk add, and then do my sub-varsity, add only the 2 positions.
So when you say bulk add, are you talking about separating the officials? Because what I do right now, what I did with Arbiter I have rated my officials as varsity officials 100, 110, and 120. So basically A, B's, and C's. My best officials are 100s, then 110s, and 120s.
Okay.
And that's how they're all separated as a varsity official.
Okay.
Then the JV officials were 200, 210, and 220.
Okay.
So if I do that bulk, or what you were just talking about, can I put a list of all of my 100 officials in that?
So what you're describing, I think, is a little bit different than what we're describing. But
Well, he's talking about
the answer is yes to what you're describing, and I'll show you how to do that. But
you guys are talking about like a referee as opposed to a down position, right? And you don't want that person to be the referee every single game. They may be a down one game and
Possible.
yeah, you just don't want to have it be official every single time. You want to know what actual position they are working, whether that's line judge or chair position, right? Like you want to know that detail. Not just this generic official. So as far as, hey, I need to add my specific positions, I would do that bulk add right now. Know that there is hey, I'm going to set my defaults, and that's going to be it for all my games that I'm responsible for. Your defaults might be different from the next guy, but it's going to apply to my games, and I don't have to do this bulk add. That's coming, but that bulk add is the quickest thing to do right now. Once you have these positions in there, one thing that I want to make sure that we spend a lot of time on is game fees and how those get set up and applied to your games. So whatever you do use for your positions, you will want to keep that in mind for when we set up game fees. So one other thing that I do want to cover, and then we'll get into that game fee portion, is creating games. So up top right, there's the Add Game button. Create game. Pulls up your sports. So again, I'm focusing on football right now. I select my competitive season. Oh. Being a little touchy over here. Date, time, maybe I know it, maybe I don't. I can hit TBD if I don't. Put in my home team. Same thing with the team that's actually playing. If you don't know the away team, you can leave that blank, or you can type in the name of the school that they're playing, host and facility. Don't know if you all would historically have loaded your games into Arbiter or not. DragonFly, we do not care. If it's the home team, the away team, the responsible assigning organization, that might be Angie. I don't know what you would communicate to the schools as, okay? But if you're connected to the school, you can create games, you can edit date times, you can cancel. So work that out with your schools on expectations of who adds games into DragonFly. But, anybody can create it if you're connected to the school as the assigner. And when you're adding in multiple games, absolutely use this save and add more. What that will do is it will save all that game data, and you just have to make any necessary changes. So if you're working on one school's schedule at once, I would say focus on that school, change the date, time, who their opponent is, go a lot faster. Yes,
So
sir.
how do we pick up
16
schools from
lightning
out of
games
state? Kentucky, West Virginia?
Sure.
Do they populate in there by state?
Every school in the country should already be in DragonFly. We did that about 2 years ago. There are going to be some, private schools, maybe some Christian schools, new public schools that have merged, things like that. If they're not there, shoot us a message in that chat box, and we can either just tell you how it's named in DragonFly for you to find, or we can create it for you. The majority should be there, but how do I manage all that? Hold on to that because that's important to everybody. I think I saw another hand.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask Angie, so with me in the sport of baseball with my conferences, I assume the schools are gonna continue to enter those schedules.
Right, whatever agreement you had with the schools, I would imagine would be standing the same in DragonFly.
So on that, the home team there online, just because you're trying to add a game like you were doing, showing there, it's only showing like the conference football. It's not showing any team. So then you start typing in there.
So what you would expect
Gotcha, I see it.
is when you're first creating a game, it's going to show you the organizations that you're directly connected to.
Gotcha.
So type in the name of the school. Great question. I think you had your name, and then I'll go to you next. Okay. Yes, sir.
For adding games, is there a function where we can import the entire schedule at the beginning of the season and all games are imported at once, or do we have to hand jam these in there?
So importing games beginning of the season, you have to do it all at once. The import that we did from OHSAA was not limited to just this year. It was future years that were already in Arbiter already. So those should be there.
I mean, for my sport, ice hockey, I don't think they've published that schedule yet.
Okay.
So I will get a schedule for the entire league season, both varsity and JV. And Arbiter had a function where I would post in a spreadsheet and it would say import games, and automatically it would import all games as opposed to hand jamming these in one at a time.
I would say reach out to us on that one because
I can speak to this a little bit because that's what we do with our tournament assignments as well. So that is something that we've requested the capability of doing in DragonFly. So that's one of the Ohio-wise things that hasn't been implemented yet.
That's on our top priority short list of Ohio.
Schools doing it that way anyway, or do they do?
They would do individually.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, God.
Right?
Yeah.
And we're only one school. Can you imagine doing this for the whole school?
Oh, I would definitely say, I mean, encourage your schools to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, that might be an optimistic thing to say, but I mean, absolutely, I would. This school's typically got to get you the schedule one way or another, so have them doing it. I think she had one first. Yes, ma'am.
So I do just middle school and sometimes high school, depending on where my partner, he's not here, he's a secretary's guy, but I have about 12 teams that are not
OHSAA schools.
no, they are OHSAA, but they're not OCC. There's like a whole bunch of OCC teams and then this little bunch that nobody wants to mess with from the OCC, so I mess with them.
Okay.
Which I think it's your way to grow the game, but anyway, so I have to sort of make a fake schedule for them, let them tweak it, and then they get it back to me, and then I would go. And that's how I've been doing this little by little. So, I mean, it's not, I don't have a big ridiculous schedule, but.
I mean, I think the way that you're describing, absolutely doable. So, in this world of, well, where does the school's access change from the assigner?
Some aren't necessarily schools, they're clubs.
Club, yeah, same thing.
Whatever.
Same thing.
I know it doesn't matter.
So if you're creating this dummy schedule, I'm just putting in
Right.
some generic dates and times because I know you're going to play 6 games, you're going to play 8. And they're usually on Tuesdays at this time, right? Like, if you're, I don't know if that's you, but like, hey, I can always do TBDs if I just don't know the dates and times. But I can enter in these schedules. The schools are going to then see them on their game schedule, and they can make those updates. If you haven't started your assignment process, again, that's the part where schools are going to be prevented from making the changes. If I've got officials on the game, schools can't change it, right? So in that example that you gave of, I'm just creating a dummy schedule, schools can see it, they can update it when they do. I would just do it here. I mean, they're going to see it, they can make an update, saves it from having to be done.
They lose their mind, they don't know what they're doing. Not everybody can get onto this also, and that's another question, because some of them don't have access. And then the other part of that, well, and you're not even going into that part of it, but some of them would like to do pay through the platform,
Yeah.
like Arbor Pay. And I'm sure I'll need to know from you how to get that.
If you're scheduling these games with these schools and these club teams, we are happy to put them on here. There's no cost for them to sign up or create accounts or anything like that. And so they can be a part of here. If they can see the games, they can pay.
But what I'm saying is for paying the officials, right? Really?
Mhm.
But then you guys have a fee per guy per day, right?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good.
So I think you might have answered my question with her response. So again, I'm going back to ice hockey specifically.
Okay.
We have teams that are open registered in the city that occasionally will play scrimmages against USA affiliated sponsored teams. For example, I may have Dublin Jerome play Hilliard. Well, Hilliard is a club team that encompasses Hilliard Davidson, Hilliard Darby, Hilliard
Bradley.
Yeah.
I should pick Westerville.
Hilliard.
This is a club team called Hilliard, so they're not going to be in the drop-down menu because they're not an OHSAA affiliated team.
Yeah. So my feeling about that is, it's still a team or an organization that you are scheduling against,
Yes.
and so we want it in DragonFly. And so if this kind of goes to the hey, I'm scheduling West Virginia, maybe I'm scheduling Michigan schools. If you don't see it, which hey, this club team is going to be one that I would include in that category of, you're not going to see it. just send us a message. We'll create it for you. It takes maybe 15 seconds to create an organization.
Can we do it ourselves? It was doable in Arbiter.
We do not, because it's a unified game schedule.
Oh, okay.
Because again, we don't want to have duplicates of those club teams if we can. Is the short answer on that one? Yes, sir.
So when I go to create a game, it says the home team is my group in football, my group in basketball, and high school.
Mm-hmm.
Click on that, and then
Just type in the name of the school. Yep. So in that drop down, you're going to see the organizations that you're connected to directly.
Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, the other question they had, it says academic year 23-24. And right now it's defaulting to 2000, it went up to 20, it defaults to 22-23. Is there a way to set the default?
That's about to change.
Okay.
Yeah.
Obviously, that doesn't do any of us any good because we didn't have DragonFly the last 2 years.
I think if you look at the schedule, and again, just from the state's perspective.
Probably July 1st, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm sure that there's going to be ones that are going away, but yeah, hey, we had some games that were listed on the 22-23 academic year, but we're going to be changing that default anyways here shortly, so you wouldn't have to do that.
Bro, you or Angie, when the schools enter their games, are they gonna set their game fees? Or is that gonna be something for the assigner to do?
That's the next thing I want to talk about, just game fees in general.
I was just gonna ask, if I have a game right now in DragonFly that the school has decided to cancel,
Okay.
which it says cancel,
Okay.
but the officials are already accepted,
Okay.
are those officials locked in? Or can they definitely be used somewhere else? Because you can't remove them. It won't let you, DragonFly won't let you delete those officials because they've already accepted.
Yeah, I mean, you could assign them to another game.
How does that work though?
So if I'm on another assignment already, the game's been canceled.
Yeah. Well,
Kind of this is the situation that we're describing.
yeah.
So I'm like one of these 5 officials, right? They're already on the game, and I could find them by name by just going and searching by the blocked officials. That assignment right now is treated as a block. That I believe might be one of the things that's subject to change. But again, as it's right now, they're shown as blocked because they're already accepted another game assignment, and so that's how I would get to their name right now.
So this season was a bit unique because we were really short on officials, so we had, like on Saturdays, early games that were a couple of officials, and these were middle school games, and then later in the afternoon, JV varsity, and some of those same people, you know, the high school guy does it first, and then I'll see who, I usually have to ask them if they're willing to, you know, work two games or 3 games. So is that gonna, that's how it'll be. I mean, if we have the same number of officials or lack of officials, it's gonna be like that, so there'll be multiple.
Yeah, it's not an all-day block. If I've been assigned a morning game,
Okay.
and then I've got an afternoon game, we halo the game around. I believe it's. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
But isn't there a way, so right now with Arbiter, everybody in this room can go in and say, okay, we have a game tomorrow at 1 o'clock and it's canceled. So the 3 basketball officials that have been assigned to that game, I go in Arbiter and I can accept the fact that it was canceled. And it releases those 3 officials back into the open officials list.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Are you telling me that the DragonFly doesn't do that?
I've heard conflicting things in Ohio about that one, and so I will defer to the prioritization
Okay,
list.
if you want out of this room, you need to make sure that that happens, or we're all
So,
gonna vote.
yeah. So why I say like, hey, I've heard different things. So, like expectation-wise, the last training that I was in person, the expectation they had was, well, hey, the game has been canceled. I'm going to hold those officials so that if I need to assign them to something else, I don't want some other assigner to grab my officials.
That's a good point too, Rob. 'cause
No, I get that.
Yeah.
I get that.
Sit there and pray on guys.
But at the same point, in time, for an example, if I'm using Kerry in basketball, okay, and Kerry's got a game for me on say tomorrow, okay, he can go in and block all the rest of the assigners from that day. If that game gets canceled, and I don't have another game to give him, I'm going to send him an email and say, hey, open this up because I don't have any other games to give you.
Yeah. So in that instance, right? Like, hey, I'm communicating. I'm available, right? If that's the case, then Carrie could go find you, just pull up your name on the assignments list and assign you. Hey, the other assigner didn't release me on the canceled game, but hey, I've communicated it, and so then I'm just going to search you, assign it, override the warnings.
I just see like a Friday night football game that gets canceled because of lightning. You got 5 officials working that game, and you're going to need 60 tomorrow morning. Now I got to go in and search all those closed out games before.
So for that one, right? Like, hey, the Friday night game got canceled. It gets rescheduled to the next day. Is that kind of situation?
Yep.
Well, if that's the case, then I might just reinstate the game.
Right.
Update the date.
Also officials on that list are
Update
gonna be able to
update the date and time.
Yep.
DragonFly will tell you if there are any conflicts. And so it'll be like, hey, Terrell McWhorter's got a scheduled conflict because, hey, Saturday's his kid's birthday, whatever it is. Remove me, put somebody else on it. At the same time that you're updating and adding those other people to the game.
I get what you're saying. So say one conference or game is canceled, right? They cancel the game and they say, hey, Phil, my game's been canceled. So I cannot go find those guys being open because you're saying your system automatically blocks those officials across the board. Or at least it immediately reminds me it's a little blocked.
Hour and a half around the game.
Huh?
Hour and a half on each side of the game. Right? So
5 o'clock, their game's canceled at 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock time frame. Oh, they're open? Hey, I gotta, because it's sometimes slim pickings on a game.
Yeah.
So I can grab that crew, bring them over. And so you're saying for an hour and a half time frame, I can't grab them? From another, say he cancels it,
So hey, this 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock.
That's 2 hours. So say 6 o'clock, because
Yeah.
I'll tell you, things change at a moment's notice here. Time frames.
Yeah.
To answer
School bus canceled.
What he said though is an hour and a half. So if my game's at 6, your game's at 7, you're not going to see those officials.
That's what I'm saying. So it should that should be, if it's canceled, that time frame should automatically release them.
Should.
And I know you're probably thinking, how in the world did we have that much area? But you have no idea how much bus problems and issues, water problems, and all that kind of stuff, and limited amount of officials. So they're just open. I'm praying at 5 o'clock I get you officials for 7.
Yeah.
So
So visually, like, how can I tell the difference, right? So I've got this one right here is 6:45. This game's at 7. That I'm showing, right? Oh, AM. Let's find a PM game then. I think we're on the 10th. There we go.
Mike's going, damn, I assigned that game? I don't remember that.
So visually, like, how do I know the difference between like a person that has a game within that hour and a half window on both sides versus a game that's outside of the hour and a half window, right?
you got a 3-hour block on. An
Hour-
hour and a half before.
Yep. So how does that look though, right? Like,
Yeah.
if I'm going to,
What did you just click on?
I just clicked on the 7 o'clock game.
Okay.
If I'm looking at my officials list, well, let me actually just see who these people are. Ashdown and Knob. So within that hour and a half window on both sides, we would treat that as a block. So show blocked officials, I would see that for that official, right? In that example of 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock that you're talking about, I would not have to click show blocked officials that game assignment would show up as in yellow, letting you know that, hey, this official has been assigned another game on that day. It's outside of that hour and a half, so it's kind of one of those
But
you
like.
still give me the option to assign them, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so let me go another devil's advocate on this one.
Okay.
I get it. Just to throw two schools out there, right? I have a guy at Ironton High School. He goes, hey, the AD from Cincinnati Valley just called me, they don't have officials. I'm not gonna come to your game.
They've already.
I'm going to Cincinnati Valley.
They've already.
Cincinnati Valley puts it on their, because they assign their own school.
Okay.
For whatever, I'm just putting a sport out there. They assign their own game. Can they grab them, even though he's violating my contract? Can they put him on theirs?
They cannot reject games that they've already accepted.
So if I don't cancel it or delay it or whatever reason, he cannot accept another contract on Dragonfly, is what you're telling
You
me.
can go in and remove him just like you do in Arbiter, right?
You're saying-
No, I'm just talking about
Somebody's
he just
stealing.
doesn't want to.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not coming.
Yeah.
I don't want him. I'm gonna create another position, so I don't release him out of that contract, so he can go somewhere else, and they can use, you know what I'm talking about, another position. I'm not gonna release him to go. He can go somewhere else in Arbor, because schools will do that, who are not being assigned by an assigner, because they're cutthroat just to cut their games covered. So I'm just saying, how do we? Is that even a thing? I know that's probably
Yeah.
just up here.
No, I mean they could, right? Yeah, they could. They could right now,
Yeah.
and I believe that is on the OHSAA. Like, hey, just remove them entirely. But right now they could. They could go to show blocked officials, snag you.
I had a guy do that this year for baseball.
Yeah.
He just did not show up to the game. I'm not coming. I'm going here. I'm like, well, don't worry, you're not getting another game from me, but
Yeah.
I don't like him being able to get paid from someone else and then just using the same system
Yeah.
to violate the contract that you'll
Yeah.
get.
Why couldn't the school come back on him? Because he had a contract with them.
We've done that.
That's
But I'm just
what I've
saying,
done.
I think there should be able to get them assignment at all.
Call Angie.
It's on the list to not allow officials to accept, to double
Double
book
book.
themselves.
Gotcha.
It is
So-
on the list.
How do you do, okay, boys basketball?
Okay.
I've got freshman JV varsity nights. We use 3 officials on the freshman JV and varsity. So we use the same officials on
All
the
3
freshman JV, so the 4:30 and 6 o'clock starts.
How do I make sure that they work both games?
Yeah, do you have a way to combine both the freshman and the JV game and allow me to assign those 3 officials
Yeah.
together?
Yep. So great question. So you can see.
I didn't have it, it was actually Mike, so I don't know.
Okay. So if you look at this Troy High, Springboro, these 2 games right here, they have this little icon to the left. This little circle with a dash in the middle.
Okay.
That's an indication of a linked game. The way that linked games work, hey, I've linked the games, I assign the first one, it's going to send those officials to the second game. It's also going to play into your fee policies.
So I
which
only
we'll
have
talk
to
about.
assign, if I assign the freshman or the JV, it doesn't matter, it's linking them both together.
Yep.
God, I
Now-
love you guys already.
How would I link games? Great question. So if I'm looking, here we got 2 Marietta High games on the same day. I would assume these are supposed to be linked. Select those games, go to actions, and link them.
Would you do that before you make the assignment? That's a smart way to do it, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Now,
So you check I'm sorry, you check the 2 boxes and then where'd you go? I'm sorry.
go to actions, and it's the very first one. Now, say you're in a situation, I have assigned 1 game before I linked. Well, what can I do at that point? I'm going to select the first game, select the second one, and on that second game or on that, then, whoop.
One of those is already linked.
Yeah, that's fine. Here, I'll do this one instead. This is the Westerville Central. And I will delete this before we leave here, just so people aren't freaking out about it. But, hey, I'll select a game that has an assignment on it with one that doesn't.
Can you remove a link on a game?
Yes, and I'll show you that next. But in this example of I've gotten a game assigned before I have linked them, well, I'm just going to go to select those 2 games that need to get the same crew. I can hit this ... and have the option to say assign officials to other scheduled game. So that chicken or egg situation, do I link before, if I've assigned before I link, you could do both ways.
Just go back into actions.
To unlink 2 games, so we'll go back to that Troy High School game. Under that game details window, there's a link button, and you could delete it.
And the schools have this exact same thing, right? Perfect.
Yep, schools can link their games for you. I think link games is very important when it comes to your fee policies, which you were asking, who does fee policies, how do those get entered in? In the top right-hand corner, you should see a little gear wheel. If you click on that, you'll see the options for fee policies, officiating limits, and officiating links. I guess I want to say officiating limits. Anybody like try to limit the number of times an official goes to the same school? Okay. So officiating limits is where you would go in and say, hey, I don't want to send that official more than 5 times to that same school. Or maybe you do it once or twice for football, right? Like within a season, I want to try to control that. So officiating limits is where you put that in there.
Where'd you get that first one, Kat? Where'd you get to that part?
Click the little icon here up by Add Games, this little gear wheel. Fee policies, click on that. Add game fee policy. You have a section for game fees and travel fees that are separate. I don't know, does anybody pay mileage? Nobody? Okay, won't even talk about it then. Game fees. Again, organization, you would be able to see the ones that you're the assigner, the administrator of. So you would be the owner of that game fee policy. You can apply it to whatever sport. You can say, you know, what game types it gets applied to, and then you can call it whatever you want, just, you know.
So would administrators have the same access?
Schools and leagues.
So Andy, you're gonna tell them all they need to enter the fees?
I mean, so my feeling on that is,
Games, they have the fees, right?
yeah, I mean, my feeling about it is, yeah, my feeling is, I mean, I always encourage schools to do it if they can. I mean, it's just less for the assigners too, right?
Now, for me in the sport of baseball, let's say that an official works solo. He's getting paid time and a half.
That's fine. Yeah,
So typically, I've had to go in.
it's an automated fee. Now, so I guess my thing is, schools have the ability to manage enter-in fee policies that apply to their games. You all know your ADs. You know which ones are going to do it, which ones aren't. And so you also have the ability to put in your own fee policies that you would manage. And, you know, again, call it whatever you want. Put in your settings. Is it active? Hey, I just want to work on this. I don't want to see it on the game schedule yet until I'm sure, right? Is it my default policy? Hey, you can have more than one policy. You know, there are, you know, easy example for me to think of would be, this is my regular season. This is my conference tournament policy. Maybe they get a $5 bump during conference tournament, right? OHSAA, whenever it comes to state playoffs, if you make it to the semifinals versus the finals, you might get a bump in pay. Those are all settings that we can put in on the fee policies. But as it goes to the link games situation, this fees vary by game count is where link games gets tied into it, right? So, hey, I worked a freshman JV varsity 3 games. You know, hey, a standalone game might get paid $80, but if I work 2 of the 2 games, maybe I get paid $150, right? So not $80 for each, right? I can put in that setting to automatically calculate the correct amount. Again, that's assuming you've put in if you've linked the games, you've got that as a setting, right? But we could spend here all night walking around the room looking at your fee policies. Don't think that would be productive. If you want help looking at your fee policies, please join one of the assigner web meetings. Bring your fee policies and we will help you get that created. So that, hey, if you got questions, we can look at it with you. We can do a couple of tests to make sure that it gets applied correctly.
When you guys imported everything, the games that I've had accepted, the game fees show up. The game fees aren't showing up on any of the other games that I don't have assigned. And I'm also not showing positions available within those games for the ones that were not assigned.
That positions goes to that bulk add positions that we were talking about earlier.
So we have to set up all our positions all over again. And we have to set up all the game fees all over again.
Moving forward, yes.
So I got like 115 schools that I have to set up fees for and add assignments.
Are the fees all different for all the schools?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing going on right now. Fees are all over.
So with that, so this is where I would say, like, join one of those meetings, because again, if the schools are in DragonFly, they can put in their fees, they can apply them to their games. You would not have to do that. If the schools are not going to take the time to get into DragonFly to do that themselves, there are easy ways for you to just apply them to all those schools' games. Not going through individually. Hey, I'm just going to make the policy and then apply it to their games. But hey, I would say jump on a call with us and we will look at those with you.
Angie, do you think that I'm wrong if I ask my conferences to not only enter the fees, or enter the games, but to set the fees? And then the platform with the pay is going to be somewhat similar to what Arbor Pay was, right?
Correct.
It's going to be a different name?
Correct.
So typically the schools are responsible for changing that if we have a solo guy, not the assigner?
That's gonna be between your agreement with the schools.
Okay.
So
I think the only reason, Mark, why we were doing it to begin with was because Arbiter didn't allow the schools to do it.
Well, I have twice the problem you do in baseball because not only the shortage, but there's many lower level games.
No, but
Gary probably
what
just-
I'm saying is, Mark, is that in Arbiter, it was a part of the assigning tool as the assigner. The schools didn't have the ability to go in and make a change to the pay rate. Yeah. So this is great because now we can all say, hey, OCC schools, put your own rates in. That's what I was doing if I was you.
So for the fee policies, so the example you gave is like, hey, if you're a solo official, you get a time and a half. You don't have to touch that game and then manually go change the fee amount. DragonFly will look to your assignments that you've made and recognize there's one guy here, he gets time and a half based off of the rate that was set up here. So if I've got, let's say it's plate.
There's a way to set solo rate or something.
Yeah, so say I have plate and then I have base umpire, right? Maybe you have two base umpires, right? If I go in here, I can set my one official rate is $150 versus $100 for a two-man crew. Again, if you set that up that way, one official's on there, they're automatically going to see 150. I don't have to touch that game and change it manually to 100, right? Or say I have two, now I have one guy that called in sick. I'm going to delete that assignment, automatically updates to shows. Now, on these game fees, really, really important to make sure that your positions here match the positions that you have on your game assignments. And so, talking to an assigner on Friday, the positions that he got from Arbiter to Myosha to Dragonfly versus what he actually wanted to use, all over the place. The assignments and how as they showed up on the import, you had official, you had R, you had official, varsity official, JV freshman official. It was all over the place. He wanted to just have head referee, assistant referee, and not worry about it. So what I would say is you can list 5, 6, 7 different positions all right here on your game fee policy, one policy, based off of the position that's on the game, it's still going to apply the correct rate.
And name it whatever you want, so you could name a lead official,
Yeah.
umpire too.
Yeah.
Or umpire.
Yeah. And again, talking to that assigner on Friday, his plan is really one of two things. He's either just going to update the assignments for his officials as he has the time. So if it shows as R, he's going to change it to referee or assistant referee. Or he's just going to sunset those old arbiter positions and only use the referee, assistant referee. And then as he no longer has varsity referee, which he got from the arbiter import, well, then he's just going to go to his game fee policy and remove those positions he no longer uses because they don't show up anymore, right?
What do you guys have baseball set up as? Just official for now, and then I could change it if I want?
Yeah. I mean, you could put in your bulk ad, call it whatever you want, and apply it to your games. You can also go in here and list your positions the exact same way. But that's where I would say, make sure those positions here match these positions on the assignments. We had an issue. Yeah. So this basketball association in New Mexico, longest time, they could not figure out why their fees were not applying to the game. Well, he had all of his positions as U1, U2. On his fee policies, though, he had it set up as umpire 1, umpire 2. So it wasn't matching up, and it wasn't capturing the fee correctly. So he made that switch. He just added umpire 1, umpire 2 to his fee policy. Boom. Popped it.
Mass updated, probably,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Because now it's part of the policy. It's been applied to the game already.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
So, keeping with the fee structure and status, for example, and again, I hate to go back to ice hockey, but that's the only thing
My cousin plays ice hockey. I love it.
well, we have a situation, for example, where occasionally teams will schedule a game and they will schedule the game to be played at Nationwide Arena. When those games are played at Nationwide Arena in season, we call them, well, in Arbiter, we call them Rink of Dream games. And in lieu of payment, they were provided tickets of their choice to an upcoming Blue Jackets game. So in this case, there would be no fee, but the officials that accepted the game knew that they were basically being paid tickets to an
Something,
upcoming game.
yeah.
So would I go into that particular game and change the fee structure to be $0? Or would I just leave it as their standard rates, knowing that when we do the billing at the end of the month, those games don't get paid to the official?
Gosh, I think that,
They're very well aware when they do Rink of Dream games.
Trap.
Yes.
Yes. To that instance, I think that's kind of a personal preference. So for me, you could just leave the game untouched, and the officials just know. I think you had the possibility though of somebody accidentally paying a game, and then you get complaints about it, right? So if you really wanted to, there's this pay view, and I could just click the X and it would remove the fee policy from it. Now you could also bulk update and update pay policies. Hey, I've filtered to that school or when they're the host, maybe, and then I've updated the pay policies and just removed them. You could do that too. Yeah, but again, your call. Yes, sir.
Match, volleyball, a match that's already on your schedule, and it's week before game time and both schools agree not to play. How do we exit it off as the assignment? How do we cancel the match, in other words?
If I'm looking schedule view or the assign view, either or.
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
If there's the schedule view or the assign view, there's different views that we have in here, right? right now I'm on the schedule view.
Yeah,
I would hit the X button.
okay,
That will cancel the game.
that's what I want to know.
Again, for me, I pretty much reserve the trash can icon for instances of, hey, it's a duplicate. It's a duplicate, right? Like each school put in their own version of it, or hey, this game never existed. Why is it here? I'm gonna delete it.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was my guess, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm again in DragonFly. Nothing is deleted permanently. If you accidentally hit that trash can on a game, you could contact us and we'll reinstate it for you. Whereas if you're just canceling it, it's still on your game schedule.
Yeah.
You can reschedule it, reinstate
It's a
it.
mutual agreement, so both teams decided not to play.
Sure.
Just
So that's how we have a sign, that's how we cancel a game, just hit the X button. I don't have to go in there and hit something else, save it, decline, or just hit the X button.
Yeah. This is like Microsoft Microsoft Word auto saves.
Gotcha.
There's no like, hey, make a change, hit save. Yeah.
If you do cancel it, if you wanted to leave it in there because you want to know, that's how I am. I sometimes want to know that there was a canceled game that they're going to reschedule or whatever. Sometimes that's the thing.
Yep.
I need to know what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Is it okay to stay in there, or will it be okay to just have it, will it just say canceled on it somehow?
Yeah.
It'll be-
Yeah. So when you cancel a game, if I'm on the schedule view, it would show as canceled.
Say that again, sorry.
It's gonna, if I cancel a game and I'm on the schedule view, that status would reflect a canceled game. It would stay on your schedule.
How do you do that on?
That X button in the actions column.
Oh, I see. Oh, so it stays in the queue, you still see it, but it's just not.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the reason we did that is,
I think that's okay.
yeah, well, other people might feel differently, right? Where, hey, it's out of sight, right? But the reason that we keep it on your game schedule would be, hey, in those instances, maybe the school's canceled a game in the incorrect process. There's a lot of feelings that like, hey, before the game starts, the school should maybe be able to cancel the game. Once the officials are on the field, it's the officials' call to cancel it, right? But
So if the school cancels the game, do the officials get notification?
everybody that is touching that game, home team, away team, officials that are on the game, the assigner of that game, they all get notified. Email, and if you have the DragonFly Center for Official Services app, you'll get push notifications as well.
What if they move the game from today to tomorrow? We just go ahead and change the date?
You as the assigner?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you are, let's see if I can find a game in the past here. Actually, let me,
Do you guys have a sign-up sheet back there somewhere?
actually, let's do this. I'll pull up one of these test accounts because I don't want to have an actual school freak out on me here. Very original Terrell State Association here. So, in your example, hey, I've got officials on a game, I need to change the date.
Athletic records for schools.
If you need to, right? Like, if I change that, right, I will hit this window. It says, what do you want to do with your officials that are on the game?
Where'd you get that at? How'd you get that?
I just changed the date and time on the game. So right here is where it will tell you, hey, I'm one of those officials on that game, and now I have a conflict with it. So I can then choose to click the X button to remove that official once I've made the change. I can send the changes to the officials and workers so that they accept or reject, they acknowledge those changes. You know, hey, I can see there's no conflicts, but I just want to give them the option to accept or reject. I can also check that box, and it will keep their status after I've made that update. So if I don't want them to go in and re-accept the game, check that box. Or if you want to start from scratch, you can remove assignments from the game as well. So again, your option on how you would want to change the date and time with officials on that game.
As far as notifications go and stuff, at least sometimes when, if there's a change, and they let the officials that are on there know, and then there's like this massive list of people that aren't connected anymore. I mean, it's something that I personally could never get off of the list. It was just people that I know are gone, that don't have
At the schools and stuff?
To sometimes it's ADs that are in the high school, it's a middle school thing.
Sure.
And I just don't know, I mean, are you guys pulling all that stuff over as well? It's the contact list, I guess.
Yeah. We were actually talking about it earlier, before this all started. Whether or not schools should have their coaches register, connect to DragonFly. Right now, it's one of those. It's smart for them to do that, but not all schools are wanting to do it, right? So, what does that mean for you all? What shows up? If I click on a game under Key People, it's going to show you, you the assigner, the officials that have been assigned that game, and if I scroll down further, it's you're saying like this is just, hey, I'm scrolling. Hey, Leroy no longer there, Marguerite no longer there. So you would be in a position right now. Hey, we're starting from scratch. We're telling all the schools.
Clean it up.
We're telling schools that, hey, tell your coaches and your administrators that actually are at your school, join, because they need to see the schedule. And, if more people are in there, they're going to put more eyes to it and say, hey, this game says 4, it should be 4:15, right? Like, to me, that is a huge reason why they should. Also, if there's a cancellation, hey, we're going to notify you. But this Key People list is a reflection.
Arthur has asked the school to clean that part of it up. All
They
those
just didn't.
There's some lists, and they all just, okay, nobody did anything.
Yeah.
That I can tell.
Yeah.
And I would just not check them. They'd all be checked, and I would just uncheck them. But that's just a waste of my messing around time.
Yeah. So schools are responsible for maintaining their list. It is one of those things where, the state could do it. Email us, hey, that AD is no longer there. Send us a chat about it. I mean, we try to verify all of that. A lot of, I'll say like there's a softball organization in Texas that I work with, and the guy will email me and say, hey, that AD is no longer there, and I'll make that change for him. I mean, it's kind of one of those gray areas, but we've done it for folks, but we want to verify it if we can. I think you had your hand up.
So I was just going through my list for my basketball group, and you said to check the box up there that says only my games.
Yes, sir.
So I have that checked, and I have games in here from Liberty Benton High School, and they're not mine.
Okay.
The visiting school looks like it might be mine, but not the.
Yeah. So that's a great point. And as a action item for tonight, like I would say one thing that you all should do when you leave tonight, in that same area where we have fee policies and officiating limits, click on officiating links and make sure the schools that you see And so here, I'll actually pull yours up. What's the name of your association?
CCL-OCC basketball.
Rob Bramer?
Yeah.
So look at your officiating links with your schools. You all know your schools. DragonFly, we are getting used to the geography of what cities are near y'all, right? But if we got a school wrong, go in here and you will be able to remove or delete that officiating link. Now, check that list. If there are schools that we are missing, do one of two things. Shoot us a message, we'll add it. Or you've got this add officiating links button where you can put in that officiating link. Now, in DragonFly, whenever DragonFly is setting up officiating links, they are automatically approved. When you all are putting in the officiating link requests, it's going to require the school to go in and approve it. So that'll be a difference. Like,
Will you email them with that, or do we
they
have
get an email notification. The AD does. The next time they log into DragonFly, they also will have a window right in the middle of the screen. They cannot avoid it. That says verify officiating links. Like, they cannot get around it without either clicking that button and then clicking X.
I did that the other day for a Pickerington Junior High, okay? Pickerington, Lakeview, thank you. And it says, oh, so the girls, at first the girls didn't accept it, now they did. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Now,
So you do have to enter, for the group though, you do have to enter
Boys and
boys
girls.
basketball, and then you have to enter girls basketball.
yep. So if you're looking, right, say Lancaster, you do boys and girls. Say that's what you need to do. Again, initial setup, we were trying to do all of that as, for you. There's a lot of assigners that we're doing that for, so if you're feeling like, hey, we just haven't picked you up fast enough, you could do it yourself. You could also just hit that plus button, and it'll keep the school, and you can just select, women's basketball as a shortcut.
So that very first one up there, where it's got the, under actions, the triangle,
Benjamin Logan.
yeah, that's not my school.
Yeah. So you did what I would think you should. You removed it, right? Is that what you clicked? Yeah. So.
Is that why that red triangle's up there? Because
Yeah.
I removed it from it?
Yep. So these check marks, that determines what schedules show up when you click Only My Games. As soon as you hit Only My Games, so for you, that Benjamin Logan school would not show up when they're the home or the host of that on your schedule, right? They might show up if they're the away team with the school that you have as an approved officiating link with, but they're...
Liberty Benton's not showing up on here though, but I'm seeing the game. Is that due to the fact that they're playing St. Francis de Sales?
Did you set that up as an officiating link?
No.
Okay.
They're not my school.
Okay.
St. Francis de Sales is I think it's December 5th, it looks like.
Let's see
Yeah,
here.
Tuesday, December 5th, 4:45 p.m.
Francis. Yeah, so they would show up if St. Francis de Sales is listed as the home team. So, we talked about, coaches being in DragonFly, same with ADs, just from a communication standpoint, hey, if you've canceled it, they've canceled it. Under that key people section, on the website, you should see a little envelope option right here. If I click that, I can send out, alerts to all the key people, just to the coaches, ADs, just to the assigner officials. Works both ways. ADs, coaches, they could send those communications as well. Key people. And then there's a little envelope icon to pull up, and I I can say who's it going to. For your officials, right? They can pull up the key people. They can send a message to all the officials that are on the crew with them. Hey, we're meeting at the Wendy's before heading over to the school, right? That's where they would go to send out communications. If they're using the Center for Official Services mobile app, they can pull up the other crew members, send out text messages, and make phone calls as well. So there is that communication aspect to DragonFly. For you all, another area where you might send out messages is once officials have joined your assigning group, you also have the ability to send out messages from here. So I need to send out a message to all the people that are under CCL basketball. Hey, I got a game. I need a body. I can send it out to everybody that falls underneath my assigning group. That way, again, you all can click that Only My Associations button on the assignment view and see any official across the state. But hey, if I need to send out a message to the people that I work with most frequently, they're connected to my assigning group, I can do that messaging from my organizations and people page as well. So again, I think everybody in here is set up as an assigning group. Officials can select it. They can select as many assigning groups to be a part of that they choose. So as your officials are claiming their accounts and registering, they will be prompted to select assigning groups that they work with most frequently. And as they do that, that will show up on your list.
So the officials determine what assigning groups versus the assigners adding them to a group.
Right now, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep. Now, there is kind of something to be said where, hey, I don't know who that guy is. Just because they said that they're part of CCL basketball, I've never used him. I've tried to contact him. I've given him game assignments. He's never responded. Hey, he double booked himself and didn't show up to my game. I don't want him a part of my association, right? You all, as the assigners and the administrators of these groups, can click on any of your officials, so David Atkins here, and remove them from your assigning groups. So you all have that ability to manage and say who is a part of your association.
We had a set group of people that were in my group. So you guys, did you transfer the people from Arbiter into your group?
Not to your association, not to your assigning group, no, sir.
Can you do that? Because what you're
I think that's
asking me
on
to do
Laura's
is remove all
list.
those people.
Like your assigning groups, like, hey, I think that's on the list. I think we're looking into it. It didn't happen right now.
I mean, because that's a lot of people, especially if you do multiple sports. I mean, I got 4 sports that I signed for, especially Southeast. I mean, that's
Yep.
So that would be pretty easy if that was transferred over all at one time for us.
Yeah. I will just throw this out here. We've had to do it in other states. If you've got officials that you're just not seeing that you need to be added to your association, again, you can click that Only My Associations box off and find them if they're in the system. But if you want them to be a part of this list, I could help you find them and we could add them if you needed to.
So the hard time for all these people to be in the list is that July 1st for the end of the registration period?
In DragonFly, when they go to claim their
so the registration period is by June 30th. So everybody's going to be in the system by that time.
So
they're showing them all blocked now.
They're already in the system.
Okay, they're already in the system.
They just need to, if they could create their profile and set their settings on their page, everything will load right into that.
Yeah.
And that's, we're gonna send that out in the next day or two.
Yeah.
It's a specific screenshot. Yeah, can't say that. Screenshot to each official on how they do it, and then we're also gonna have some webinars for them to help them. Because once they load that stuff,
and they create their accounts, all that stuff's already in there, it's just gonna populate.
So, main thing is, forgive me for asking another question here. We need to make sure as an association, I'm association secretary for football. I need to make sure I set up my association secretary, all my people in it.
Okay.
Then as an assigner, I need to make sure that those people are in my group as an assigner. Correct, and then per sport. Or is that automatically done by eligibility for you all?
So the officials, when they are registering, they're claiming their account to see their assignments that were in Arbiter that are now in Dragon.
Somebody who's not,
Yeah. Hey, I'm a brand new person. Yeah. So when they are claiming their account, they'll be prompted to select the signing organizations they work with most frequently.
So I need to follow through as an assigner, if you want to work, and I'll be in and accept my groups, get in there and find me.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, absolutely. I would 100%
Same
say
thing with the
that.
association, get off your rear end, get into my association. Gotcha.
What's the frequency you're gonna use to update the officials in Dragonfly as we go through the rest of the month?
With their eligibility requirements? Or is it every week that we were talking about, or is it?
It's, I don't know any other way to say it, it's regularly, just as we used to batch them in Arbor, it's the same process. We're just downloading them from, renewing in MyOHSAA into DragonFly. Probably gonna be daily at some point in time. But as they come in, we do it like, I think, weekly, and then we go to daily as we get toward the end because of so many.
So I'm looking at the list of people, and I've got a gentleman's name and an info button. What is that? And they're all in red.
Yeah. Are you on the game schedule or on your organization and people page?
Select another. I'm on the organization page. Looks like.
So that info button that you're talking about, so David Atkins, we'll use him as our example. If I click on that, it's to the right of everybody's name. It gives me their details. I can click on their game counts and see if I click on, the include upcoming games, all the games that they've been assigned. I've got position, assignment status, payment status. If I click on these games, those will hyperlink to that exact game on the game schedule. So, hey, I need to see all the people that David's working for this Canal Winchester game. I can click on it. It'll take me to the game schedule. I can also click on the blocks and see all of the blocks that the official has entered in from their account. So from here, I can get to it. I can also see that exact same information on the game schedule. Click on Show Blocked Officials. By clicking on the name of the person, it pulls up that exact same window and tells me that same information. So that info icon, however you want to use it, where you want to use it. On the game schedule, if I click on it from here, any blocks are going to be game specific. So, say I've got a, recurring block. I've got, Monday through Friday, work 9 to 5. Weekends, I can't do 8 to 12 games. Whatever it may be. If they have a block, I'll see them all, but any specific to that game, that conflict, will be at the very top too. Which brings me to the thing that we need to communicate to officials when they are claiming their accounts in DragonFly. Again, this is part of the communication I believe that is going out. But officials claim their account in DragonFly. They just use the exact same email as their MyOHSAA email. Under assignments, they will see all of their upcoming games already. You don't have to reschedule those like we talked about at the very beginning. One thing they do need to do is re-enter their blocks that did not get pulled in from Arbiter to MyOHSAA, so we did not get it in DragonFly.
Can you switch emails?
Like,
Well, you might be able to answer this. When I'm being registered with OHSAA is a different email, because when I signed in, they said, no, we can't take your other email. Can I change that, or do I have to change it with you first?
In MyOHSAA, you mean? You can, I believe, when Angie sends you the officials administration information, she is going to send you the email that came from my OSHA, that things were loaded in.
Right.
So that's what you're gonna get, and that's what I would use in DragonFly
Yeah.
when you're creating your account. So you can always change your email my OSHA to whatever, whatever.
And I probably can in DragonFly, didn't I see a green plus button where you can add an additional email? So if I want to send out a blast to schools or to officials, it can come from either email, am I right?
So on that official's profile,
Yeah.
it'll default to the my OSHA email, right? That's their username. But yeah, hey, I also have another email that I prefer to use because I'm at work, you know. So they can add another secondary email if they want to
I'm talking about me, can I do it as a signer?
for the official.
To send a blast
Or
to
just-
schools or officials, can it come from either email?
Yeah, so you can add your email, and then when you're sending out your communications, you know, I don't know if I've tried. Let me see.
Both of them will populate.
Yeah, let me see something real quick. That's my spam email. If you try to use it, email me something, I'll never check it. But let's see here. Yeah, it's just going to default. So this right here, this messaging thing that I'm showing you, for spam reasons and spam laws, the email actually comes from noreply@dragonflyathletics.com.
Right.
But you can click that receive replies so that, you know, hey, if I'm an official, I get that email, I can respond, and you get that message, right? But that initial email is from the same address, which is probably why it doesn't give you the say, you know, hey, work email, personal email, choose which one it goes to.
So, Bo, if I change my email with you, then it would update in DragonFly? Because I think my old email
I don't
has.
know the answer to that. Yeah, I would just follow up with
No,
that.
not my OSHA, it's a separate system, you change it with my OSHA.
Yeah.
That's unique to my OSHA.
How'd you get there again? The composed message, I'm sorry.
So if I'm looking, you know, say I go back to your CCL page. Oh. You inadvertently signed up as being my guinea pig person to talk about today.
That's all right, you're perfectly fine.
So if I'm looking at the page, over on the right-hand side, there's an envelope icon that pulls that up. So the way that this messaging works,
So how do we get the names to populate? So on mine,
Once
it's
the-
got my football name, it's got no names there.
so you probably don't have any. I guess my first question is, are you looking at officials? Are you looking at athletes, staff?
It says athletes, so I need to click staff, right?
So select
Or
officials. Yep. There you go. So the way that this works, that messaging component, if I don't check any boxes, that's your select all. It's going to go to everybody that's on that view. Say I want to only message David and Brandon. I can check the boxes for those officials, and that message only goes to those individuals. So however targeted you want to be in your messaging, you can be.
I want to go back to the game cancellation stuff.
Okay.
So like, we have a school that canceled a game on August 21st, right? So it shows up canceled, so then we go and try to put the same two officials on another match at the same time. They
Not,
don't show up.
not that
So
game.
how do we get them?
Click that Show Blocked Officials button. You'll see those. Yeah. Now, when you're on that assignment view, you know, hey, these are two officials in particular I know I'm trying to put somewhere else. If I'm on that view, know that I can go in here, type in it, search by name. I don't have to go scroll through the bottom of the list. So you can search by name, close matches will show up. So if it's a name that's tricky to spell, just get it close enough. It doesn't have to be the full name, so I could do Mart, and Marty Adams should show up. So that's an easy way to filter through your schedule that way.
So, Rob, can I circle back to one thing? So when you mentioned the schools putting in their home schedules, right, home dates only, can other schools mess with this stuff? Like, that was a big problem in our group. Or other schools could go into other schools and cancel dates or remove games or do whatever.
Yeah.
Is that?
Right now they can. That's on the short list of changes to limit it to the host school. While we're talking about your officials and what they should be doing, again, officials should be putting in their blocks. Officials put in their availability, that's going to be who you see to assign, right? Aside from that, officials and maybe yourself, maybe you do contest official games still. There is going to be two things here, organization funds and my money. My money is where your officials need to go to put in their bank account information. So officials can be paid in DragonFly regardless of whether or not they've entered in their bank account information. They cannot withdraw their money until they've put in their bank account information. So I think there's a lot of concern from officials being like, I'm not going to be able to get paid. I haven't touched DragonFly. What the heck? What do I do? It's okay. They can be paid. Those funds will just sit there, though, until they've put in their bank account information.
And it's just bank account information. They can't request a check.
Correct. To set expectations, again, I'm sure y'all are talking to your officials, this process where they add their bank account, they put in their information. As soon as they hit that save button, there is a security step. It's called micro deposit verification. That is where that official for that bank account will get sent 2 penny amounts that will show up as deposits in that bank account. Those will show up 1 to 3 business days after they've hit the save button. So a lot of officials, they just expect it to be instantaneous, and they just delete the account, delete the bank account, re-add it, just thinking it's going to be instantaneous. Be patient, 1 to 3 days. Typically it's 1 to 2, but sometimes there's a third day. They get those penny amounts, those deposits. They will plug that into DragonFly to verify that account. They only have to do it 1 time. At that point, they can withdraw funds anytime they want to.
So getting back to linked accounts, linked games, there's probably for me about 3 or 4 officials that just didn't trust the process. And when it showed up on their game schedule, it was a different kind of look. And so it didn't show both fees on there. This was arbiter, so I realize it's something. They just said, don't link my games. They didn't want it. They were afraid they weren't going to get paid. Arbiter always would assure me that they're going to get paid. It's already in there and we see it. So I would just not, if I have these guys on these games, I would just not link them.
Yeah. How do you address that? Let me see if I can find the Troy High games. So these 2 games are linked, right? And to that end, when I click to pay that game, automatically is going to select both of those games because they're linked and prompt the payment to occur 1 time. Now,
that'll be on the individual guy's account. It'll show up like that on their account. As long as they see it, I think it'll be okay.
Now, what you can do, there is a setting that I think goes towards those officials and those concerns. Pay a single fee for a linked game.
Well, I think what they didn't want that. They wanted to have to.
Yeah.
I just think they were just kind of.
There's an optics to it, right?
What was that?
There's like an optics to it, it just.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
They were just twisting my nose.
Sure.
So, okay, thank you.
So this is kind of at that point where I think I've hit all the things that I wanted to make sure that we talked about. But we have an hour to talk about just questions that you have, or I can float the room, whatever you all want to do. Yes, sir.
We're going to go ahead and set up our bank account for, as an official. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So I just tried that, and it directs you to a box. It comes up like OHSAA. Let me get back on here just for a second.
But I think that's all right. Can they start putting in their bank account information as individuals?
I would know one now. Yes.
Yeah.
I know they can.
Yeah. Unless you can think of a reason not to, I would say it's probably fine.